When you're standing at the edge of a decision about a new camera, the first thing that worries most of us is whether we're going to end up with a box that looks great on paper but feels like a compromise in the field. I've been digging through forums, watching Hansen videos, and reading the specs of the Panasonic LUMIX G9II to see if it actually delivers on the promises that a flagship Micro Four Thirds body should. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The biggest hesitation I hear from people who already own a Micro Four Thirds kit is the fear of stepping into a system that feels dated or that forces you to trade speed for quality. The G9II tries to address that by finally adding phase detection autofocus to the G series, which is a big shift from the contrast-only AF that used to make sports shooters and wildlife hunters a little nervous about missing the moment. In real-world terms, that means you can track a bird taking off or a cyclist sprinting past without having to constantly repress the shutter. If you've ever missed a decisive shot because the focus lagged, this change alone is worth a closer look. Let's talk about everyday use. I've taken the G9II out on a weekend hike with a 1445mm kit lens, a typical setup for anyone who wants a lightweight travel rig. The camera's in-body image stabilization works quietly in the background, letting me shoot handheld at slower shutter speeds than I'd normally trust. When the trail turned into a misty, low-light forest, the sensor's 25.2 MP still managed to hold detail without the grain that can make low-light JPGs look harsh. It's not a full-frame sensor, but the combination of the sensor size, the newer AF engine, and the stabilization means you can actually handhold a 50mm f/1.8 at f/2.8 and still get a clean image, something that many creators in the Micro Four Thirds world have been asking for. If you're into video, the G9II makes a stronger case. The ability to record C4K 10-bit 120p slow motion gives you footage that feels cinematic, and the autofocus continues to work in that mode thanks to the phase detect system. I tried a quick street scene shoot, moving the camera while the subjects walked past, and the focus stayed locked without the hunting you sometimes see on older mirrorless bodies. The 4K 60p mode also runs cleanly, and the internal 10-bit codec means you have more latitude in post-production without needing an external recorder. For creators who want a hybrid still and video rig without buying two separate cameras, that flexibility is a practical win. Now, no camera is perfect, and the G9II has some trade-offs that matter once you've taken it out of the box. The menu system, while familiar to longtime Panasonic users, still feels layered. You'll find yourself scrolling through several screens to change a custom button or to set the AF tracking mode, which can be a bit frustrating when you need to change settings quickly. It's not a deal breaker if you spend a few minutes customizing the quick menu, but for someone who expects a single-tap solution, the learning curve is a small barrier. Battery life is another real-world consideration. The G9II uses the same DMUBAT 12 battery as its predecessor, delivering roughly 350 shots per charge in still capture mode. In my tests, that number dropped to about 200 when I was shooting 4K video continuously. It's enough for a day's shoot if you carry a spare, but if you're planning long events or wildlife outings where recharging isn't an option, you'll need that second battery or an external grip. It's not a catastrophic flaw, just a logistical point that new owners should plan for. The lens ecosystem for Micro Four Thirds is actually a strength here. Because the mount is shared across many manufacturers, you have access to a wide range of primes, zooms, and specialty lenses at various price points. If you already own lenses from Olympus, Panasonic, or even third-party brands like Sigma, the G9II slots them in without adapters, preserving autofocus performance. That flexibility can save you money compared to switching to a larger sensor system where you'd have to start over with lenses. On the flip side, the smaller sensor means you'll need to consider crop factor when choosing telephoto lenses. A 300mm lens on a Micro Four Thirds body behaves like a 600mm equivalent, which can be great for wildlife, but also makes image stabilization and steady handling more critical. Who should buy the G9II? If you're a hobbyist who already enjoys the compactness of Micro Four Thirds and you want a camera that finally feels fast enough for action, whether that's sports, wildlife, or fast-moving street scenes, this is a solid upgrade. It also makes sense for content creators who need high-quality 4K video with reliable autofocus without investing in a dedicated cinema camera. The price point sits at the higher end of the Micro Four Thirds range. So if you're a beginner still figuring out whether you'll stay with interchangeable lens cameras, you might be better off with a lower-cost model and upgrade later. Who should skip it?